Oh, he's after me! Oh god! Oh god! Step right up and enter the wild, wacky world of Pugnacia. This mod is the perfect combination of magic, beauty, and danger all rolled into one. And it's about to get even crazier with the addition of one clueless girl named Kitty. Now, Kitty might think she knows what she's doing with her pro-ish skills, but let's be real. Sometimes you just gotta fail to figure things out. And with a map like the center, it's easy to get distracted by all the eye candy and forget all the danger that's lurking around. But fear not, folks, because Kitty is ready to take on this wild ride. For the next 100 days, Kitty attempts to tame the untamable, fight the unbeatable, and survive the unsurvivable. And all the while, she'll be struggling to simply stay alive. But hey, no pressure, right? So sit back, relax, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, grab some cookies, and now let's spawn in. It was to no surprise that touching grass for the first time in a long while wouldn't last very long. Seems about right. So now I attempted the warm and sandy beach and hoped for my first magical creature. But that hope was lost as a pack of compies started chasing me, and somehow, not on purpose at all, I ended up angering a trike. Getting distracted as usual, I then actually started to attempt to grind. Where am I even? I punched a tree and quickly realized that I had spawned with some very helpful tools. I grabbed some flint, fiber, and made some pokey sticks, because those will definitely help me. And as I was investigating a dino duel, I was run into by some Troodons. Oh. Finally, I was able to get some progress in what seemed to be a safe-ish area, and even got myself a Gerbob Ross. Cute stuff. Which got me thinking, if I had an army of little critters, maybe, come on Shiny, just maybe, they would keep the stranger dangers away. Finally placing a storage box, I was now set to tame more critters, of course. And the bigger the army, the bigger the bite, right? I'm sure they will have like a little bit of bite. Look at our army. With such an adorable large army, I was now courageous enough to grab some hide, which meant I could place my first foundation in bed. And as we were feeling at ease with the night now upon us, we were attacked. What the was that? Sure, they'll take care of it. At least we actually won that fight. But I really should know not to ever let my guard down. Thank goodness everyone was safe. I gathered my crew and my stuff and continued my tribe recruitment. But unfortunately, a Megalosaurus wanted to set up camp close to mine. We're going way too close. Run! As well as do some horrific things to a poor glowtail. Oh, that's horrible. Oh, rip glowtail. Needing some meat of my own, we battled a mighty dodo. And as the warm sun rose, I started contemplating what my next move would be. I don't want to go too far from the bed just to start. But that was quickly disrupted when a fairy decided to sneak up on us and, well, Bob Ross, no! Oh god, we just lost everyone. Oh. Maybe militia the critter was a bad idea after all. Oh, that's sad. Dodging and weaving all the danger that was everywhere on the beach, I had high hopes that I could find a safe place to reside. Run, just run, just run, just run. And it really didn't take too long to find at all. But the guardian of the peninsula would need to be defeated for us to claim the land. And after some time, I outsmarted him. While the turtle and the dodo duked it out, I went for another lystro. I then checked up on the fight a few times, realizing the turtle had actually won, which also gave me the opportunity for more hide and meat. And once again, placing a foundation, bed, and storage, I chopped down trees and rocks, and before the day was done, I built this magical house all by myself. This is kind of nice. For the rest of the night, I gathered resources until I was high enough level to secure down the fort. As I was taming yet another turtle, a feisty dodo came along who wanted a piece of me, and I may have accidentally made the turtle mad. Oh no, now the turtle's mad. He finally calmed down, but in Ark, I've learned that you can never have nice things. At least I was able to get a shiny 2.0. Who didn't even last as long as the original. But even in death, our little hero protected us. I then collected a green drop and was able to tame Cappy the turtle, who was a little closer to home and was also just a little baby. Because you're a little baby. So I brought him inside to keep secret and safe, with no difficulty at all. I then placed a forge and waited for my meat to spoil, placed a mortar and pestle, and crafted some special trank arrows, a bow, and some bolas. In high hopes of maybe getting something other than a passive tame, I was quickly distracted. How could I say no to this beautiful turtle warrior who fought so bravely earlier? Cappy was now brought home. I then headed out in search of some metal, which was surprisingly very close. Yet I still had to be weary of what was around. That's when I thought it would be neat to have a moss chops added to the fam jam, and a vulture too. Although, being a tad impatient feeding the mossy, I multitasked and crafted a feeding trough. Finally, she was all mine. But making it home would be a very stressful task. Oh yeah, just run right by that almost. That's great. Once back, I placed the feeding trough, filled it up, and started to smelt the metal. That's when I realized the Pugnacia moss chops was useless to me, as he doesn't actually collect berries. He doesn't get berries? Oh well. So I headed out on yet another adventure. I went and grabbed my things from my old settling ground, battled some zombie compies, and also got myself Polly, the parasaur. But the true question was, could she get me berries? And yes, she could. Not only that, she picked up stone and other things on the ground too. After all that gathering, I placed a regular and Pugnacia smithy and made myself the most important of tools, a pick and a crossbow. Then I decided it was probably time to dress a little more appropriately. Mission 1 had commenced. Get a bird, which was a success until I realized I had used up all my meat. So, do we have meat? Do you have any meat on you? Battle of the Delos begun, and well, I may have pressed the wrong button. Oh no. Heading back, I whistle blew to neutral and finally took down the opposing army's last warrior, only to be taken out by a vulture. God. Taking my bag, I let the Lystros do the dirty work of killing the vultures, and sadly, I had to do the one thing that hurts my heart the most. Sorry, Piggo. But I needed to get some easy meat for my bird. Now the true test of patience came. Occupying my mind during the wait, I got myself another gerbob, who saw his unfortunate demise to the delos of the beach, seeking revenge. No! And I crafted a PT saddle to at least be somewhat prepared for the new birdie. I then went to put some cooked prime meat into my sleeping beauty in hopes that it would slightly speed up the tame. I got myself a kitty lystro and realized it would probably be smart to fortify the base. So I worked on that for the rest of the night. That's until this pretty bird caught my eye and my heart as well. Once tamed, I realized that this little boo-boo could be ridden, which means that we officially had flight. Staying on task-ish, I finished the gates, and then Pretty Bird and I went for a quick search for crystal in order to craft myself some much-needed soul balls. And as the sun was rising on another beautiful day, I safely watched over our very long-awaited pterodon. Once up, I saddled him and named him Terry. Then we went out for a test drive. Now that we had officially moved up in the world, Terry and I went to have a peek around the map. We went to some extremely dangerous sites, but I had only one thing on my mind that I absolutely, positively needed to have in my life. So we searched and searched, while grabbing some obsidian too. And that's when I saw it. A tenacious scorpion. Technically an alpha. With him, we could tame almost anything. After clearing the area, I had to decide how I was going to safely get him down. But when do I ever put any thought into those kinds of things? Until after the fact. With my amazing aim and pro-ish skills, I clearly executed my plan flawlessly. I did go look for him, but I'm pretty sure he fell victim to the lava. So today, I went home empty-handed. Instead, I did some quick repairs and headed out yet again, almost forgetting a very important piece of my taming spree adventures. I crafted what was needed for a trap and set out once again in hopes of getting something, anything, but everything was so dangerous. Finally, I settled on the mighty, ferocious Gerbob Ross. I actually had a use for him, I promise. After looking around for ages, I finally convinced my stubborn self that maybe I didn't really need a tenacious scorpion. Although they're stronger than their other counterparts, I'm sure the regular one would do just fine. In getting my trap set up, I coaxed the scamper in and eventually got her down. I then fed her some spoiled meat and waited until little Stinger happily awoke. What a great day! Back home, I placed a preserving bin, which was of utmost importance to safely keep the organic poly I had gotten somehow. And after putting Gerbob to work, I went out on the search for oil. Finally finding some, I gathered it up quickly, and Terry and I went to see if we could find a male scorpion, to no avail. Flying back to base, I had seen a world boss that had spawned on my island. Oh, and that was a tad concerning, but never mind that. I continued to craft and grind, placing a soul terminal and then getting dressed to impress, even giving myself a much needed haircut. Next, Stinger and I headed out into the dark, stormy night. I wanted to test her torpor skills, and with 2.8 thousand, it wasn't bad at all. So after grabbing a purple drop, I knocked out this super cool iguanodon. And I also wanted to save all the babies that were scurrying along on the beach. But the chase was a little too much for me. It's not like I had a trap in my pocket or anything. Checking back at the lava spot for a mateable scorpion, I realized I could hear one, but he was stuck in the lava. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to save him. I put up my trap as quickly as I could, but my placement was way off. So I started again, all while hoping this sad little guy would stop screaming in the boiling red hot magma. And just as I was placing the final pieces to my trap, this little dude crawled up to safety on the teeniest edge. Clearly, I'm such a lifesaver. Knocking him out, I crawled gracefully down to feed him and picked up my trap yet again. Then I went to grab my new tame and decided to make myself a handy soul trap gun. Next, I went to see how exactly this iguanodon worked, because apparently placing seeds in him would make them turn into actual fruits or berries. My new goal was to get a glacial rhino, but sadly I was extremely intimidated by this carno. Although luckily Euphemia saved the day, and I carried on with mine. I now had a decision to make. Since the rhino I wanted was stuck inside a theory, I risked it getting them both down in this stompy area. I fed my little fluster and made it onto Stinger in the nick of time as the meanest dark creature was coming after me. And at that moment, I decided I wanted him too. Another life saved today. Yay me! I then went to get some beach polymer before grabbing my now tame turkey and scorpion, and then I let these two lovebirds get it on. I named our first turkey Pwilly and made myself some dinner while hatching some eggs, picking the best fish, one of the litter, choosing by colors and not by actual stats. Pumpy and I were now the bestest of friends. Gathering some berries, we ventured out in search of a very handy tame, but not without spying on my dream tame, who was also a boss, and who was also conveniently hanging out with an ancient Rex. Finally spotting the conflagrant mammoth I had been looking for, I was really unsure how easy, or should I say, how difficult this tame would be. I had to get my bravest soldiers out for the job, while I, of course, stayed in safety. Although, this tame turned out to be a hot mess. Oh no. Okay, that didn't work. I waited for the mammoth to take down the primal RG, who rudely interrupted and collected all the free goodies. I then had to risk Pumpy to finish the job, hoping that she wouldn't get stomped on. That was easy. I now had the hard part of feeding the big boy and swiftly getting out of there. When I was back on the island, I noticed my rhino had run out of food. Quickly fixing that problem, I continued to wait whilst hatching more babies. But we all know how easily distracted I get, especially with the thought of easy tames. So Terry and I set out once again, in very high hopes of getting some wyvern eggs. First, I had to kite most of the danger off the cliffs. Sorry, kitties. Then I went for my first egg, and this was definitely not a place I wanted to be on foot for too long. I hopped off my bird, grabbed the egg, and flew off as fast as Terry's little wings could go. Out of the distance, I had a peek at the egg. A level 1176 lightning, but clearly I couldn't have just one. I needed more. Sneaking back, I spotted another lonely nest and grabbed the unprotected egg.
Oh my god.
Okay, maybe just one more, I thought. I scanned the area, killing a scorpion, and my heart going a mile a minute, stole yet another egg. Run! And yet I began to wonder, what if I could complete the nice little wyvern collection I had going on here? I spotted another nest, this time with a hidden egg, but I just couldn't grab it. This wasn't going to stop me. I crouched down and was able to snag it, running away quickly as Mama and friends were close behind.
Oh god, oh god, oh god.
Why not another? Why shouldn't I? I don't have a Magmasaur yet. The greed was now seething through my veins, but my luck had run out. Pretty Bird and I flew back, eventually spotting my body and poor Terry, who was trying to take on a wyvern. I quickly whistled for him to join me and got the heck out of there. Once I was sure the area was clear, I looted my bag and made my way back home. In the morning, I started crafting some gremlin tonics, which were meant to make dinos hungry. Maybe, just maybe, my mammoth would wake up quicker if I gave her one of those. Heading back to the area, I noticed a pesky reaper who was harassing all the creatures around. Oh yeah? And he swiftly turned his attention to my sleeping beauty.
Oh, that's not gonna happen.
Assessing the situation, I courageously decided to go for yet another. But in these lands, I seem to have no hope.
Oh, you stupid.
With a sliver of health left and little to no taming effectiveness left, I guarded that baby with my life, and once he arose, I zoomed out of there. Also, grabbing my rhino that was ready as well. And while I was cleaning out our pockets, I noticed Terry had some bacon.
What is this bacon?
Guess we would all be eating in style tonight. After that delicious dinner, I attempted in hatching my wyvern eggs, but quickly realized that the fires were just not working. Placing a crafting station to make some air conditioners, I was prompted to make a fabricator. Phew, this was a lot of work. So taking a much needed break, I recolored my clothes to an even brighter fashion. Then I continued by placing my fabby, but was put to halt as I now needed silica pearls to make electronics. After searching the treacherous waters,
Oh, heck no.
killing trilobites, and once again heading to my island, I noticed something. The one thing that would make all this work obsolete. Knocking out the Dimetrodon and a conflagrant dodo too. I fed them and went for more. Another Dimetrodon down and a turkey, and well, just in case another living air conditioner. But I was not going to go for that turkey. Instead, I enjoyed the shows and knocking out more very useful creatures. I named yet another turkey Sher and went to test my new egg coolers out, and they were absolute perfection. Placing my other turkey down, now known as Lisa, I thought it may be a smart idea to go and grab the last Dimitri I'd knocked out. Cautiously, I scanned the area, and that's when...
Hello there.
Hey!
Kitty!
Where are
Hi.
you? Oh, you're right there.
Hi.
I like your hair.
Yeah, it hasn't been cut yet.
You know it's like really dangerous around here?
You think? I think I've been killed by that ancient turkey like 20 times now.
Like, why are you over here? There's a mantis. I'm gonna go kill him. BRB.
I wouldn't.
Clearing the landscape for Skate was my good deed for the day, and also giving him a quick tip. Be careful, Skate! It's dangerous! Finally picking up my tame, I rushed home to name the trio Tinky Winky, Lala, and Bo. I then saddled my rhino and mammoth and went out to collect so much wood with my new harvester, taking the time to have a peek at my wyverns and lava boy. I did some light reading and promptly moved along to my beautiful flying lizards, naming them Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. And that's when I realized I needed a saddle to ride them.
Since when do I need a saddle?
And they needed black pearls and cementing paste. Finally getting my boo saddled and out to stretch her wings.
Oh, that's nice.
We were now unstoppable. But before we took over the world, I remembered I needed to check out my mammoth. And oh boy, he was magical. Look at all that charcoal. The love of my life and I went sightseeing, looking at all the wonders we could find. I was also in search of a certain froge, but quickly noped out of the swamp. Continuing our journey, I spotted a conflagrant Ahikhe, and I knew I needed him in my life. But first, I needed to clear the stranger dangers away. After taking down a mighty Megazord, I went for the ancient Rex. I definitely could do this, I thought to myself. I had even gotten him in the perfect position where he couldn't bite me. All that shattered when he moved. I tried to reposition myself, and in the process, I had gotten stuck.
Oh shoot, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm stuck. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no. Retrieving my stuff, I decided I wanted to have one more peek around, but quickly decided against it.
Oh god.
Instead, I broke out Bubbles and we continued our search for an Ahikhe. That's when we noticed a pre-knocked out zombie boy. I gladly gave him some brains and noticed a little doed I could add to the family too, after keeping him protected, of course. Poor Bubbles had been put to sleep from that silly Carno. So gathering her, my things, and my new Ahikhe, I tried to call it a day. Although it seemed I hadn't learned my lesson, I really wanted a doed. Trying to stay close by as I waited, I started to wander around to see what was below and above me, as well as keeping the area safe-ish from all the baddies. And as old habits die hard, I thought, why not take another shot at this ancient Rex? He was rather unresponsive to my attacks. So really, this should be a piece of cake. A long process, but easy-ish nonetheless. Meanwhile, because I was distracted with this beast instead of protecting my doed, he ended up having a very short life. But I defeated the Rex, getting myself some instant golden kibble as an award, which would aid me in taming even stronger creatures. Making it home, I decided to take it easy by gathering some metal with Precious the Dead, as well as getting a nice surprise in a drop. Speaking of nice surprises, I was finally able to get a matching breeding pair of scorpions for my army. Hopping on Terry, we ventured over to the volcano island as I was needing some more wyverns. Getting Mama distracted, I stole her egg and sauntered proudly off. But as usual, I knew I wouldn't be happy with just one, so I grabbed a fire egg too and went on my merry way. Hatching the eggs, I was happily surprised that I now had a boy and a girl lightning wyvern. So to celebrate, I put the turkeys to mate. Oh yes, and the wyverns as well, because we all know I'm probably gonna need some backups. I then placed another forge to get metal quicker and started filling a prezzies box just outside my gates, filled with goodies and a couple helpful tames for my Patreons on the server. I popped out some turkeys, naming them Azure, Jester, Skate, Keyboard Warrior, and Grayel. Then went on a search for some primals to tame with this new kibble. Again, getting quickly distracted. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could have this really cool looking Giga? Maybe I could just have a peek. Or maybe not. Thank goodness Bubbles was safe. Now I had learned my lesson-ish. Shaking, I grabbed everything, but I just couldn't get him off my mind. Well, it never hurts to try, right? Sending my little army in after him for science, I took a look at how much torpor was dealt once they sadly perished. 70,000 with only 6 scorpions. This may actually be doable. Rushing back to base while doing some quick maths, I swiped 18 scorpions. I then set up on my perch and got to work. My first brave batch didn't do as much damage, so I tried with my second. more than halfway there. But I realized I would need more soldiers. No time to lose though, I stormed in my third army. Speeding back, I fill my pockets full, not being picky at all about the scorpions I was grabbing. And as the fourth cluster marched in, a Rex thought he could come in and ruin my plans. But even as he chomped on my boys, the Giga fell. I chased off the Rex, and I fed this bad girl some instant kibble. Oh my god, I got a Giga! And that, folks, is how I officially tamed my first Giga all by myself. Now, if only I could find a male. Oh, you know exactly what I did here. 1, 2-ish. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now, having a matching pair, I did what any responsible Ark player would do, popping them out at home. I realized I couldn't even ride them yet. Oh well. I then let them consummate their love for the rest of their happy Giga lives, while I sorted and awkwardly waited for more babies. Getting myself a fresh new wyvern, I retired Bubbles and welcomed Boop to the Purr Pack. We flew around the map in hopes of getting levels, and I even saw a magical unicorn. Oh, how I wish I could have him. But at this exact moment, I didn't have any carrots to tame him. Everything was going so well. Boop and I were having so much fun wreaking havoc on the world. We even got our first primal together, the super cool RG. We had a peek at some world bosses and slayed almost everything in sight. But there is one thing everyone should be scared of, no matter how strong you and your mount are, especially if you may not be wearing any gear. And it always happens on accident. At least for me. I accidentally hit a demorph, and he hit back. Thank goodness for backup wyverns. Anywho, Boop and I continued our journey, and I still didn't learn to put my armor back on. But we did end up getting some major levels from taking down a big, bad old Rex, which now meant I was high enough level to ride my Giga. Back at base, I learned the Magma, Giga, and Primal RG saddle, and got a better look at this magical specimen who was deemed Bala. But I was too excited and needed to try out my beautiful Giga. It was like Christmas had come early for the both of us. Okay, maybe not for me. She could even swim! I was now alpha of the lands and of the sea. With my now new strength, I wondered if I could handle a primeval creature. So we went for the party poppin' Dodo Rex. And we were even able to get an ancient turkey too. This army was amazing. After cleaning up, I contemplated if I could maybe tame one of those. I did have a primeval soul and the meat to make the food after all. So that's exactly what I did, but not before attempting to befriend this beautiful Pegasus again.
Jesus.
It took 5 armies of 10 to 12-ish scorpions to render the oversized dodo unconscious. But I now had him as my own. He didn't do as much damage as the Giga, but he was mine all the same, and a very, very important member to the family. Naming him Miley, I took him out to party, and oh boy, was he a blast! Filling my pockets with more torpor pokers, I realized I may need some more primal meat. So, TBA and I went on a chomping spree in hopes of sweet, sweet blue meat. My next mission was now to kill the brood mother in order to be able to tame one of my favorite fish creatures. Stepping up my Gigas and flying further into the swamp, the battle went way better than I expected. Congratulating the soldiers, I leveled and packaged them up and continued my search for more. Stumbling upon a dodo wyvern, my not-so-gentle giants were no match for him. Instead of recollecting them, we all went for a lovely walk in the swamp to see what else we could find. But I was finding that they were a little too hard to lug around, so I set off into flight once again, this time coming across a primeval dragon who was conveniently paired up with an ancient Rex. There was no doubt in my mind my crew could do this, but yet I was still a tad nervous. As they took on the Rex, I observed the dragon, who was getting impossibly high to get an accurate target on. I even tried to aggro him to get closer to the ground, but he was being so stubborn. Here, dummy. I tried a couple more times and finally he followed me down to the gigas. Unfortunately for me, I missed the whole battle. You know, from being on fire and being a scaredy cat and all, of feeling on top of the world, I went next for the Manticore. I may have not thought this one out very well at all. My blue pups overshot the ledge by way too much. It was now mission collect the little rascals, and this was very difficult as they bobbed and weaved in the water. Only losing one, I was able to retrieve the others. I hoped I had learned my lesson for that. And all that work for a 2.2 second battle. I rinsed and repeated with some goodie collecting and pocket storing, and flew off for a date with the monkey. But we didn't see eye to eye. And with him now gone, we all took care of another dodo wyvern that was chilling in the neighborhood. Then I searched for what felt like forever, trying to find the one I most certainly could not live without, to no avail. So instead, I went to stock up on more pocket gigas and went to try something very dumb. All I wanted was this big scorpion, among a few other things, but in order to have him, I would need to kill him first. But I wasn't thinking of that. All I could imagine was of all the things we could tame with his big, pokey tail. But even my mightiest couldn't defeat him. And they either died or passed out from his torpor bombs, while I sat and watched in horror. Now contemplating how I would defeat him while sorting through some eggs and proudly displaying my flags. I went back to the drawing board. I had heard a rumor that rock elementals don't take torpor damage, but how would I tame them? Not the conventional way. No, that would be way too hard. How about with a primal trike? I went off in search, and I searched, and I searched. Finally spotting this magical creature, I put him to sleep with 3 sets of scorps. Boom was now a very neat addition to the team. You see, Boom shot off cannons, and not only is that the coolest thing ever, but it meant that he was a very handy tool for taming rock elementals. If I could figure out how to use him properly, that is. Terrified, I got up into this stone's business and hoped for the best. And in some time, he finally went down. While he was in his peaceful slumber, I went to look for a mate. Luckily for me, I found kitty color golems. But as I went to clear out the area, I quickly decided against getting the blue one, and also had to figure out how I was going to get the pink. Even though he was the wrong gender, I still had to have him. Eventually, we did find a not so glorious female, and I brought all my new rocks home to show them off to the family. And I immediately got them breeding. I also named our fancy gem Boom, cause I'm so original like that. Desperately needing resources, my Zom, Ahikhe, and I went to grab some metal, and I may have accidentally hit a demorph yet again. Unfortunately, having some weird server glitch or an actual out-of-body experience, I couldn't get my bag. So today was the day that I built an awesome teleporter, which also doubles as a corpse retriever. Whew, thank goodness for that, since I keep everything in my pockets. After all that, I went back for more metal and daydreamed of what would be mine, no matter what. And that's when I realized I only had 2 more primevals to beat. I was dominating. And noticing how powerful I had become, I, of course, wanted more. Or at least own some of the very cool-looking creatures. So I decided to take a break from the primevals and go out to tame some primals. First, I found a primal Arthur who I named appropriately, along with another who I named Plura, and a Thyla who I rightfully named Gatita. Then I stumbled onto the monkey dude and named him Big Monk. With 5 down, I only needed 8 more. So the search continued. I attempted to snatch myself a primal griffin, but a reaper came in and ruined that. They were literally everywhere, so I continued on, this time aiming for a penguin with a gun. DJ Kiki was now part of the tribe, and I was ecstatic. Heading back to the redwoods, I thought it would be very appropriate to get Gatita a lover, Gatito. And of course, I couldn't resist getting myself a rock drake egg. Yet, and that caused quite a kerfuffle from the locals. I then tried to find some more primals, figuring they were easier to spot at night. But I had forgotten my trike to get a Carcanos, and that's all I really could find. Now, it wouldn't be a kitty video without me forgetting to record now, would it? But it does say in my notes that on this day, I did some breeding and got myself a primal griffin in Stego. It could have been worse, like forgetting to film a boss fight or something, right? Meanwhile, I found myself heading in to demolish an ancient Rex bright and early in the morning, and another, as I needed them for more instant kibble to tame all the things. I then went straight for a primal basilisk, only to die by a snail? And that was the most unexpected Ark Y moment ever. I went back to the swamp using my super primal seeing eyes and finally spotted a Spino, who fell asleep with no trouble at all. And apparently my scorpions gave me a 2-for-1 deal, and I got a bat too. Oh yeah, and remember those gigas that the Scorpion King knocked out? Well, they were awake now. I got myself a primal terror bird, and since I was in the area, we went for yet another Rex. Taking a proper look at my very impressive new shiny tames, I named a few and then crash tested the griffin. My collection was almost complete. Picking up Boom, my brain got distracted having a memory of a primal Dunkle Doofus that had previously been in our inlet. Going in for a closer look with some protection, my memory was correct. There he was, distracted by something in the sand. Taking a chance, I tried to knock him out with my army, but this was quite literally a disaster. Almost comedic, to say the least. I tried with a second cluster, and I even got myself in there. Finally, I was able to call him my own. And now I had a mess to clean up. Project Primal was almost complete, and I decided to go on a side quest, attempting for another conflagrant Ahikhe. If only I could not aggro her and everything else around, that would be great. And deciding not to take a chance on waiting for her berry tame, I insta-woke her, and now it was time for the Primal Carcanos. Maybe not that one. So I tried for this one instead. Strategically taming him and fighting off the strangers in between was not my strong suit. I couldn't even turn my back for 1 second in this area. And the third one was dead. 4th time a charm, hopefully. Again, fighting everything in between and having to let Krabby heal. This was by far one of the hardest tames ever. But finally, I mastered it. And him. Taming all the primals was now complete. And before the next mission began, I named our crab Annie and took a peek at what her Ahikhe could do. That was amazing. Then I had gone back to the swamp as I really wanted and needed a very special frog, but I just couldn't seem to find one in the murky, bitey waters, no matter how long I searched. Sulking at base, I sorted through eggs and babies and placed a boss ascension terminal. I had a quick peek inside to see what I may be up against in the days to come, and then I scooped up Fluffy, because apparently he was supposed to do wonders for Torpor, but he seemed to be broken. I guess my little Pokeboys would do. Now it was time to look once again for one of my favorite dinos, the primeval Indom. Finding him, I really didn't have the heart to kill him, so I went to tame him instead, which took very many pokes and a very, very long time. But in the end, I got my Indom and named him Buddy. Now, as if I had forgotten about my new fave dino, I moved on to my next victim, the Phoenix. But there was a pesky dragon in the vicinity, so I had to take care of him first. All the while thinking how magical it would be to have this fiery bird. Although 2 million torpor was a really big feat. I tried and tried and tried again, but my army was no match for his feisty flames. One last attempt did absolutely nothing, so I killed him. If only I had the ultimate torpor-giving taming machine. My elemental army was finally ready, and this time I knew I could take him. Since, I had now defeated all primevals, surely he was the next contender. But as we know, nothing ever goes according to plan. I really don't know what I was thinking, but after he chiseled my rocks, I attempted to send in my gigas as well, which I already knew what the ending would be. So to cheer myself up, Buddy and I went for a stroll. I was really hoping for him to be a bit stronger, but maybe I was just spoiled from all my gigas. And for the rest of the day, I had the lovely task of leveling all the creatures. If only there was a mod for that. Oh, but wait! There it is! So after adding it to the server, I hopped back on, conjuring up my next plan of action. This time I was adding wyverns to the mix in the Battle of the Skarner. If they could attack him from the sky, while the gigas attacked him from the ground, maybe they would avoid the same fate as the others. Right? Well, I don't even know, because I crashed. Don't forget to turn your head off before big battles, folks. Loading back in, everyone seemed fine, although they already had a great deal of torpor. Oh well, here went nothing again. The snowstorm made it impossible to see, but I hope for the best, and well, I never prepare for the worst, now do I? When everything subsided, all I had was a pile of hopefully sleeping dinos. This was impossible. Back to the drawing board I went, sorting and gazing at yet another magical creature that seemed slightly out of reach to me. I pouted for a bit, and as I needed to wait for some more elementals, I decided my dreams would have to wait. And that's when I heard a rumor that one of my Patreons had a Prezi for me. So I, of course, went to scoop that up. I had my very own Petrie. Yay! Thanks, Waterdragon! And now the next mission began. Primevals were defeated. It was time to tame them all. Starting with the brood mama. I was being as proactive as possible, and she finally went down. I crafted her favorite meal in my mobile smithy, fed her, and I now had my own creepy crawly. Next on the list, I headed for the Megapithecus, with slightly the same events as with his 8-legged counterpart, and he took way longer than I had anticipated, but eventually I got him out. It was now time to see what these primevals were made of, and although they weren't the best in damage, they were still pretty cool. 4 down and 4 more to go. Taking a break and being a sucker for punishment, I decided to attempt Skarner one more time. But when I was preparing, the fight started before I could even say go. So I just sat back and watched. It seemed to be going decently well-ish. I went and threw in more soldiers, and even more. That's when I noticed something. The lone survivor was attacking him from behind, and the King of Kings was not fighting back. I wondered how long it would take to kill him like this. I had some patience. Not much, but some. Eventually, though, it wore out, and I thought maybe I could help out. We were almost halfway there, and I started thinking about maybe throwing just one more in to help. It seemed to work. Not much extra was being dealt, but it would do. The 3 of us were working very hard. But what if one more elemental could help? Oh yeah, now we're talking. If only I knew when to stop pushing my luck. It was now Boop, myself, and one silly rock thrower who clearly got my brains in the gene pool. He was not helping, and I noticed Skarner had healed 20 million health in like 2 seconds-ish. Losing all patience, I moved.
Why can't I fly? Run! What the actual?
rendering Boop unconscious. Trying to save him, I had one last hope. And well, I ruined everything. Boo! But then I had a grand idea. Teleport home and get more rocks. And another river in too. But guess what happens when you go out of render, apparently? Everyone had stopped fighting. And everyone had healed. Apparently I wasn't giving up that easy. But needless to say, I gathered my things and with my head down, I headed home. Feeling defeated, I wanted just one win, clearly thinking that if I defeated one world boss, that would bring my spirits up. Snow and fire bombs everywhere, and my first batch of Gigas gone. This pest had gotten himself on a cliff. I probably would have won if he hadn't gotten up there. Okay, maybe not. Feeling as though I needed a change of scenery, I contemplated taming a phoenix who was apparently having a nice day at the beach. And there was not just one, but two of them having the exact same thought. Realizing there was no way I could avoid imminent danger, and one of the phoenixes disappearing, I went for the other. But trying to get a bird in the water is not easy at all. Can one thing go right for me? Please? Seeing as I needed to get a move on if I wanted to defeat any of the bosses, I finally did it! I got my first one down! And yet that wouldn't stop me from doing something quite unnecessary, or perhaps even dumb. I built a cloning chamber with a little bit of goodies I had gotten from the Titanosaur. Why? Because I thought I could clone one of my primevals so I could make babies with them as opposed to taming more. I even made some element shards, and then quickly realized I was way over my head. So to take out my frustration, I went for a turkey and Dodorex and knocked myself out a nightmare Pegasus. I obtained myself another Indom, as I had yet another pro-ish plan. You see, if I built a mutator, then I could swap genders on my primevals, so then they could actually breed. But I would also need a replicator. I wonder if there was anyone else on the server who would help me with this predicament. And while pondering, I killed yet another Indom and got myself some more souls. Of course, Skate would have a replicator. Why would I even think otherwise? So we came to an agreement. I provide the materials for the mutator and we could then share it. And not only that, we could also use one of each of our Dodorexes to breed. What a great idea! We found a nice neutral spot and placed it. And of course, I wasted element not following directions.
Did you just use the element?
Did.
Yeah, that's why it said open inventory.
I know I pressed the wrong button.
Waiting for the 5-minute cooldown, we tried again, this time with mine. Now my Miley was a beautiful girl, and it was time to get down to the real business. Babies! I then, of course, did the exact same thing with my Indoms. Meanwhile, naming my Pegasus Nightingale and having a little bit of a playtime, I spent the entirety of the rest of the day sorting through creatures. Setting out with new hope to defeat more bosses, I saw yet another phoenix. And when an opportunity presents itself, it never hurts to try. Realizing I had forgotten my scorpions, I rushed home and also thought of a great idea. I should trap him. That was a great idea in thought, but in execution, not so much. Anyway, my perception of where he was way off, so I moved along to my actual target, Kyreem's little plant friend. The battle was intense, and I almost had no hope, but we did it! And a little Dodorex trotted gleefully back to me as the only survivor.
Oh my god. No way. No way.
Searching through the bags, I had found some really cool goodies from the plant too. Not wanting to stop now, I was now going to attempt... No, not him. Actually, her. Mothra. Let's hope to the almighty Ark gods I wouldn't hit anyone else in the vicinity. I tried with a Giga and Dodorex army. I tried with just a Dodorex army. They were still not good enough. Maybe my cool new shirt that matches my cool new pants would help me come up with a better plan. I then placed my special crop plot from the plant boss, but I didn't know exactly what to put in it just yet. Another day of organizing and breeding. I placed myself a blueprint maker, but I wasn't exactly sure on how to use it. And to be quite honest, I didn't even think I'd ever learn. Taking a break, I went into battle with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Fister the Destroyer, hoping that my army could reach him. And well, we lost Boopy. Back at location, I grabbed my things and set myself up with the biggest, baddest army yet. And we defeated him, yay! But although I killed him and got his goodies, I would later learn that I must have not gotten close enough to get his engrams. But his would be the least of my concerns. Moving along, Mothra was just around the corner, so instead of putting everyone away, we charged her. Now you see, I may have accidentally opened my inventory at a very key moment. Did we defeat her? Or did she go off the cliff? Needless to say, I couldn't find her bag up top, and although I did see her body in the water below, unfortunately, I couldn't find her bag down there either. And believe me, I looked forever. Having no time to lose, I went in for my next boss, the third trike, who went down rather quickly. I grabbed his goodies and happened to cross paths with Mothra again. This time, though, she was stuck in a rock. For once, I wasn't the problem child of Ark, at least. I then headed in for the great mess of the Kraken battle, and had gotten demolished in a couple of seconds.
Holy sh...
So I had to come to terms that I may have to start fighting bosses on my own.
Just demolished in 2.2 seconds.
But that meant I had to figure out who was worthy of such a deed. I then needed to learn how to utilize potions, as those were going to be very important too, especially the blue and red ones. Which meant I needed a supply of cooked prime meat, so I built a grill. Which also meant I needed a constant supply of stimulants, so I finally found a use for my special crop plot. And while I was at it, I named my new wyvern Purr. Oh yes, and I would also need a constant supply of rare flowers, which meant I needed a very large turtle to do the job. But not that one, because he was being eaten. Attempting to get even one Megalachon wasn't going over so well, especially when Booper decided to take off on me. So in hopes that more would respawn on my island, I went in search of Mothra yet again. This time, she was acting very weird. Very weird indeed. Meanwhile, Mary was christened the new boss Tame. Actually, having second thoughts though, I wanted a cooler color, so everyone meet Poppins, the official Pugnacia boss destroyer. We then ran around leveling up, and even attempting an elemental Titanosaur, but that was not a very good idea. Especially in the water. I then got another turtle killed. So being the smart cookie I am, I decided to go with darts on the next. They were actually pretty good. And with that, I finally got myself a flower girl. I had to go and check up on the big moth once again, who was still acting silly. So this time I wondered if I could take advantage of this situation. You see, there was a point where she would start losing health. Maybe, just maybe, if I could get in one shot, it would count in my favor. Sadly, it did not. Continuing on, I saw another plant thingy and thought it might be nice to have another crop plot. So I killed him. But, of course, I couldn't find his bag of goodies. So, just for funsies, I tried another big stompy boy, but failed horribly. Yet again, as I procrastinated for the real challenge ahead, the second attempt went way better. Okay, I know I needed to go fight things one-on-one, but I was scared. But be it as it may, I stubbornly pulled up my big girl pants, stored everything unnecessary in my pockets, placed my helpful health and torpor waking up potions on my hotkeys, and set out for the Kraken, who apparently was right by my base. Thank goodness Poppins didn't need oxygen. I crept up to him. knowing if I couldn't defeat him on my own, any and all hope would be lost for the rest of this journey. Ready? Breathe. My fingers started cramping so bad,
My finger's getting tired.
and I needed to stay on the task at hand. I did it!
Oh my god.
There was hope. Maybe I could actually do this. I was so proud. To celebrate, I had stumbled upon a very unalive Mothra, and well, since she was accessible, I gobbled her up and took all her prezzies too. After all, why not? I then went for some metal and had a turkey dinner, and then headed to the swamp as I had to find a beezel. Checking the beach, I thought maybe I would get lucky and see one in between the river and the land, but I was having no such luck, and that's when I saw him. Spinebreaker. I gazed in awe. I then pondered, wondering if my army could take him. Never hurts to try for science, right? I began prepping the guys and the gals, and while we were setting up, something decided to attack, which in turn meant some hit Spinebreaker, which in turn meant that the ones on neutral started to fight. And well, now half my army was gone. I should have learned there, but of course I didn't. That's when I noticed Skate had shown up. Hi! And now I had to put on the best performance ever.
Setting up for a war here?
Yeah. Finishing up, I hopped on my wyvern, and after some technical difficulties... Oh no!
Oh, you dummy.
It ended quicker than it started. No! Now Skate decided he wanted to try. Oh god! And I also needed to see how it was done. I was not disappointed. That was amazing. Let's go! After showing Skate my issues with the problem child, I continued my search for a Froge. And just when I was about to give up, I could hear the little one swimming around. Not wanting to risk any harm on this precious boo, I quickly gave him instant kibble, and the conflagrant Anky Froge was mine! This frog was handy because he was actually the ultimate chem bench, and oh boy was he amazing! Thinking it was probably smart to practice solo before I took on the big boys, I fought the third trike in the elemental Titanosaur! I was so good at this! I then got myself another Megalachon for even more flowers, and then I had heard a rumor that Skate had gotten a Dodorex saddle, so I went to visit him for perhaps a nice trait. But of course, I got distracted by something very important.
I hear you're here for something.
Yeah. Not even. Flipping unicorn?
That is in fact a unicorn, yes.
I've been trying to get a unicorn, but I end up killing it.
You want to see what's so special about it?
Yeah, but how do I get in?
Poops rainbow poop.
Oh, so fancy.
Well, and it also poops rainbows.
Yeah, I have the black Pegasus, but that's all I got. Okay, anyway, sorry. Yeah. Can I trade you?
There's a very nice Dodorex set.
Take that, and take that. Oh, yeah! Thank you!
Now feeling more prepared than ever to take on Skarner, I went in search for him, and that's when I noticed one of my Dodorexes falling into the weird glitched water. I also noticed this little guy in there too, except he wasn't actually very little. He was a dead Skarner. The Ark gods had blessed me with this precious gift, and I clearly couldn't say no. I excitedly rushed for my prezzies, and then received the most prized prezzy of all. That being his pokey stick. It was amazing!
Oh, mama.
Along with a tech helmet, which was super neat too, among a couple other things. With my newfound magic wand, I knew exactly what I had to do. Tame and kill all the things. If I needed it, I tamed it. If I already had it, I practiced on it, with the mistake or two in between. I had even stumbled upon an artifact. I then headed back to my now fave Mothra spot, and I noticed a lonely kraken down there. Why not try again, I thought. But I was getting greedy. Firstly, by taking advantage of yet another Mothra loot bag, and secondly, by fighting the Tentacle King. And well, I wasn't being too observant of my surroundings.
Super!
Booper got caught in the action and died in vain of my need of obtaining more loot bags. And Poppins died because I forgot to pay attention to my health bar. But in my defense, I was a bit distracted by Booper dying and all. Rip, little buddies. Rip. At least I got to try out my new Phoenix, who was mediocre compared to the others, but my Dodo Wyvern was actually really cool. Although knowing me, I decided to keep him safe in my collection versus upgrading my current mode of transportation. I then did some tidying up and headed out to level up our new Popper, as I needed this Dodo to be just as comparable to Poppins, not in spirit, but at least in damage, which we ended up getting very close. Time was now closing in and I needed to get myself a primeval dragon and manticore, but finding them was proving to be a tad difficult. At least I was getting myself some extra souls and having a whale of a time. Being right beside the dragon, I now had to wait for him to be reachable. This stick was so much fun. That's when Snooper decided to take off on me.
Where are you going?
After finding him, I went to see if there were any more freebies and got lucky with a dragon. Now I just need a manticore and more primeval souls, of course. I accidentally hit Popper in a poke attempt to the big kitty, but finally got him when he kindly decided to land. With that, I had now defeated and collected every single primeval. Even though I still had to get Mothra to ease my soul, now was the time I needed to mentally prepare myself for the 3 tech bosses. If you didn't know, Skarner turned out to be a tech boss all along. No wonder I couldn't get him earlier. Along with the tech bosses and before fighting the 5 Ascension bosses, I had 3 other goals in mind. Clearly, obtain a Skarner for myself, obtain 2 spine breakers if possible, and be able to craft 1 trophy to aid my noble steed in the battles of the bosses. Which would mean I would need up to 4+ souls of each primeval. The more, the better. And I would also need the trophies from Skarner and spine breakers to be able to officially tame them. I had my work cut out for me. Getting to work, first I treated myself to crafting an Elemental Titanosaur trophy, which would aid Popper with 25% less damage coming to him when fighting. I then pulled out my Dragon and Manticore, and of course, taking them out for a little test run. Now it was time to prepare for my one true nemesis. The one who I've been wanting this whole time but couldn't have. The one who I'd been working so hard towards this whole time. Not the end goal, but the goal. Skarner. Terrified, I procrastinated by clearing the area. I hesitated. One wrong move could ruin everything.
Hey.
Ah! Ah, baby!
So scary.
Did it!
Hey, boys. Whew.
We did it! got some super cool prezzies too. I then went home and did what I've been waiting this whole time to do. I crafted a Skarner for myself and sacrificed him in one of the Dodorexes. I named him Skippy, colored his saddle, and we rode off into the horizon, killing everything in our way. I was so happy. And later, I tried this special trank gun, but in reality, my Pokestick was way better. But hey, I got a mini Titanosaur at least. I then attempted for another Pegasus. Who I thought killed Snooper too, but she was hiding. Phew. And then I went to go and see our friend Mothra for the millionth time, which in turn had me finding Spinebreaker, who was also glitched at the moment. Maybe if I picked up their spawn portal, they would reset. While waiting, Skippy and I went happily around to level up some more, my plan being to make her my official boss fighter. And I even got a cute little Shinehorn for Skate. Oh wait, that was a mistake. Okay, there we go. And I even got a cute little Shinehorn for Skate. Speaking of mistakes, I don't know how, but I again forgot to record, which usually would be no big deal. But two crucial things happened. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? Bad news? Okay. Skippy died. Long story short, I had just finished killing the elemental Titanosaur for some sweet points and goodies when Skippy and I got stuck in a Bronto we had killed, and the position we were in, we couldn't harvest it. Well, a huge turkey decided to come in and target us with his homing missiles, and it was too late. I pressed all the healing potions on my hotbar as quick as I could, but I just couldn't save her. Rip Skippy. And then I defeated my first Spinebreaker. It was absolutely, positively terrifying and probably went exactly how you can imagine. A lot of me screaming and panicking. But don't worry, we have to go in for another. I'm sure the next one won't differ very much from the first. I did have a few choice words to say when realizing my recording device was off, and before you know it, I was back on camera. Once home, I got everything ready to craft my very own Spinebreaker. Yay! And I had a little bit of a heartbreak when seeing his damage numbers. That's until I found his bubble attack. And that was pretty cool. So, just for funsies, we fought the big lug again. Not as good as I'd hoped, but I'm sure he will come in handy. Double checking the recording button 1,000 times, I went in for Spinebreaker for a second horrifyingly time. I had to be careful not to get cornered, and I had to make sure not to get into too deep of water as well. I also had to pay attention to my health bar and keep my fingers ready for a quick health potion sip, all while trying to move in a straight line-ish. This was hard. But we did it! And I wasted no time. Making babies. With one tech boss left, the Tempest, I grabbed some Spinebreakers, saddled them up, and attempted this fight the good old-fashioned way. And these troopers were amazing! But where were my goodies? Finally finding them, I set out to go home. During the flight, I had spotted a unicorn. Maybe, just maybe, today was my lucky day. I crept up to him, not wanting to frighten the magical being, and quickly got him. Yes! This was a good sign, and oh boy was it. Finally, I stumbled upon Mothra in a non-glitched area. I had to get this oversized butterfly, and well, my tanks didn't make the cut. So as quickly as you could say popper, I jumped in before she could fully heal. And now I had officially killed her, defeating all world and tech bosses. Everything was right in the world, but there was no time to celebrate as I was pushing my luck for time. I had absolutely no room for mistakes. We now had to fight all the Ascension bosses, and if you didn't know, in order to fight each boss, you have to gain a trophy from the previous one, except for the first. Element is used for the first. And if you failed just one, you have to start all over again, gaining each trophy to move forward. Yeah, I was a big ball of anxiety. Flying over the redwoods, I found a nice place to put my ascension arena. And I know I probably didn't need an army, but I felt much safer with them. It was time. Commence Alpha Brood Mama. Hello? Oh, I had forgotten to summon her. Oops. It was the nerves, I swear. OMG! Oh, and I even got a Kraken I could have too. Neat. Next was the Megapithecus. As I was setting up, I noticed the terminal disappeared. Apparently, they self-destruct, so I had to go and craft another one. And they're not cheap. Anyway, time to get into some monkey business. And everyone died, and I had to make a decision quick. Quick, Kitty, quick! Kitty! He was now fully healed, and it was just me and my sidekicks. Then it was just me. Oh my Lanta! And for that one, we got a Mr. Fister. That's neat, I guess. Not wanting to mess anything up, this time for the dragon, I picked a Spinebreaker and named her Star. She would be my main tame today. It was go time. The comrades were falling, but we had to keep going. And while biting, I thought how nice looking this dragon was. I wish I could have her. Yes! Taking a look at these prezzies, I had gotten some tools that probably will never be used, but cool nonetheless. And I had gotten another Kraken, so of course they now had to breed. It was now time for the Manicore, boys! Sitting on Star, I waited for the inevitable. These flying bosses were so annoying. But with a great view for your pleasure. It was done! Whew, that was so good. Thank goodness these death worms were pretty chill afterwards, but it was really nerve-wracking for me. And now was the moment we had all been waiting for. Could I complete the entirety of the Pugnacia mod in 100 days? With all the mistakes, mishaps, and laughs, could I walk away saying I defeated the great hippo? Let's find out.
I've been expecting you.
First, I popped over to Skate Space because he had a little Prezi that might just help me with the fight. Because we had heard a rumor that if you combined a Spinebreaker trophy with a Spinebreaker, then you could have this cute little but deadly helper on your shoulder. And that's when I saw a box. So I chilled there for a bit. After wasting enough time, I began to set up in the redwoods. Now, Skate and I had a deal. As the Pugnacia guide stated that you should have at least 3 people for this battle. And well, because I was a scaredy cat, he would be there to pretty much hold my hand. But I would do everything on my own. Unless I called for help. Then he would come to the rescue. Finishing the setup, I took out Star and put the damage reducer on her. I then placed the portal and crafted the hippo. But now I had a slight problem.
I lost Star. I lost Star. Where's Star? I lost my Spinebreaker. Oh my god, that hippo is huge.
I had no time to look for her, so I grabbed a random one.
You are my new queen. Everything kind of like sunk in. What the heck? Okay, ready?
And we began.
So let's
A lot of explosions. It's already lost.
red filling my screen, and then half my army stuck in the ground. We were truly doing our best.
Alright, it's down 20 million health.
Okay, come on. Come on, guys.
And that's when he charged right for me.
Oh, he's after me! Oh god, just stand there, Kitty! Just stand there! Just bite! Pay attention to health. Pay attention to health. That's all you gotta do. Pay attention to health.
Getting stuck, I had no choice but to fight back.
Oh, he's after me!
I don't think any of your creatures are trying to attack.
Nobody's doing anything except for me right now. Am I right? Am I right? What the heck are they doing?
Yeah, everything else just been something to the ground.
What is, oh my god! And I'm stuck inside him. Like,
And well, wasn't this a great perspective for all of us? Luckily, we have space perspective too.
Oh man, Mothra's taking me down. Oh, I got the Mr. Fister trophy, by the way, because it didn't technically count the last one.
This was the scariest, most terrifying battle I had ever done so far.
Oh my god, I can't, my fingers, escape my fingers. Oh god, oh god.
But I was having so much fun. After many finger cramps, many health potions, and trying my best not to panic, especially since I couldn't run away.
Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go.
We did it!
Do I have to keep fighting or am I good?
No, you're good. You did it, Kitty?
Oh my god, I did it, I did it, I did it, did I do it? Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
The hippo had been beat, Pugnacia had been completed, and I, Kitty, had survived 100 days in this crazy mess.
My hand. Oh my god, did I really do that?
To celebrate, Skate and I crafted a huge mech dude and happily played with it around base. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and don't forget to check out some of my other pro-ish content. I hope you all have a super, a duper amazing day, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. 3 million damage!
Almost 4 million.
What the actual?